Hi guys, and welcome back to the Emily Knits channel. My name is Emily. I am a knitter and crocheter and sometimes cross stitcher and other fibre arts. In my mid-30s, based in the north of Nottinghamshire in the UK, where I live with my other half and our two dogs close to Sherwood Forest. This is a relatively short week for me this week. I've got a podcast episode for you, so we're going to talk about some finished objects, some whips, things like that. But I filmed my last one a bit late because I'd got behind because of some travel for work. So I filmed my last one on Monday. I'm filming this one on Friday, so there isn't a massive amount to show you. But I thought I would stick with the weekly updates and we would go through what I've been working on, what I've finished, what I haven't. Sorry, just noticed I was losing a ball of wool. And yeah, well, it should be a relatively short one because of that, so we'll get into it without any further ado. Before I get into it proper, where can you find me? Before I also say where you can find me, just to completely clarify, if you want to reach out to me on any of these platforms, please do. If you want to follow me on Instagram, if you want to send me a message on Instagram, on Ravelry, anything, please feel free. The reason I tell you where you can find me is because I'm super happy for you to do that, so please feel free to. So you can find me on Instagram as Emily_knits_. You can find me on Ravelry as Emily Knits 36. There is the caveat, as always, that I'm not very good at keeping Ravelry up to date, so there are projects on there that no longer exist. There are things that I'm working on that aren't on there. I'm going to try and get better at that in the new year, but yeah, they're not super up to date on there. But you can find me on there if you would like. You can find me on email. You can contact me via email at emilyknitspodcast@gmail.com. And you can also find me on Ko-fi as Emily Knits if you wanted to support the podcast. I do also have a Ravelry wish list, which I will link down below. If you wanted to support me through buying a pattern that I will then eventually knit or crochet, please feel free to. What I love about that is if you pick things that you really love and you would like to either buddy knit along with me. A couple of people have said about that and I'm super happy to do that. I would love to do that. So yeah, if you want to do like a little buddy knit, that's absolutely fine. Or even just, I think somebody said with one of the patterns that they bought that they were interested to see the colours that I chose, or if you're interested to see how it looks on a bigger body, please feel free to pick something that you want to see me knit or that you want to see before you make a decision. Let's touch on what I'm wearing briefly. I don't know if I've actually worn this on the podcast before. I haven't worn it for a bit and I've reeled it back out again and I'm really, really enjoying it. So this is my Goet Raglan by Celine Feyten, who is Celine Knits, I think, on Instagram. Celine is one of my favourite designers. She does the most inclusive patterns, the most inclusive in terms of sizing, shaping, everything like that, but also ability levels. They are very accessible for beginners, despite the fact that quite often they're a bit more complex. She's a fantastic designer and pattern writer, so I cannot recommend her highly enough. This is a really fantastic sweater. So I test knit this for Celine probably about a year and a half ago now, something like that. I feel like it was in late 2022. Yeah. So yeah, probably about a year and a half ago. And when I finished it, it was a little bit too small. And I think that's my own fault because I think I'd been a little bit too eager with the sizing and I'd gained a bit of weight as well. So for a while, it hasn't really been something that I've felt comfortable wearing. But I've lost a bit of weight, like I mentioned before. And this now fits me exactly how I like. I've probably got about 4 inches of positive ease. The sleeves are a bit tighter because they've got this waffle pattern on. So the Gaufrette is a raglan, top-down raglan sweater with two different views in the pattern. So you can do, I think this is view B, with this little sort of sweatshirt detail here around the neckline and these waffle pattern sleeves, or you can do just a completely plain stockinette raglan, or obviously you can mix and match. You could do this but not this, you could do this but not this, vice versa. But it's got excellent shaping in it. It's got a compound raglan. I've put bust darts in mine so it fits really, really nicely at the front. She's got instructions for how to do that in the pattern. I didn't have to do that myself. And this is an excellently fitting raglan. I struggled knitting it a bit because it was on, I think it was DK weight yarn on 3.25mm needles at quite a tight gauge. This is Drops Charisma in the shade, I think it's just dark yellow, which I'll talk about in a minute actually. But it's 100% wool yarn, and DK weight yarn at that gauge was quite hard on my hands, but all the way through knitting it, I was, particularly towards the end, I was like, I'm never knitting this again. I hate this. I don't want to do it. It's hurting my hands. The moment I finished it and put it on, particularly, especially now it fits me how I would like it to, I want another one. This is so, so nice. And the Drops Charisma has held up really, really well. I've got a cup of tea in my hand, sorry. I've got a little bit of pilling under the arms, but really not much. And I've also used Drops Charisma in another sweater that I've worn a lot more than this, my Leo's cabled sweater. And you can't see any signs of wear on it at all. So I really highly recommend that yarn, and it's definitely a budget friendly one. So yeah, I'll pop links below to the Gaufrette, and I will pop links below to all the patterns that I talk about as well. So let's jump into it. So I'm going to take a drink and catch my breath. Excuse me. So it's been a bit more of a focused week this week. So I've got less to show. Like I say, partly because I filmed on Monday and I'm filming again on Friday, but also partly because I've really been focusing most of my knitting time and energy in one particular whip. Because I really want to get it finished and done. So I've got one half finished object to talk about that was nearly finished last time. One main whip that's taken most of my knitting time. I've got a new whip that's going to be frogged, and we'll talk about that. So I've got one half finished object that we talked about last time and was very nearly done, so we'll talk about that. I've had the one main whip that has taken up most of my time, and the only other thing really that I've worked on this week is I started some Advent projects, because I'm filming this on the 6th of December, I think it is. So I started some Advent projects, and spoiler alert, I didn't keep up with them, but I made a conscious decision not to keep up with them rather than just sort of falling behind. So we'll talk about those as well. And then we have another whip that I cast on, I'm really happy with, but it's going to be frogged and it's going to be started again, and we'll talk about that as well. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the half finished object first. So last week, or earlier in the week on the podcast, I showed the Vinter socks that I was test knitting for Herbgarden Knitwear. I think when I showed them, I wasn't very far off finishing. I had started the toe, I think. I'd done the top down or cuff down socks, and I'd done all the way to the toe. But I needed to finish the toe. And really, when I actually picked these up and did them, there was about 10 minutes of work left. I should have just got on with them. But this is the first sock finished. Look at that. It's so festive and wonderful. So this is, like I say, a top-down, cuff-down pattern. You knit, I think it's like a tubular cast-on. It's not a normal long-tail cast-on, which is what I'd use. And you do that in your contrast colour and a couple of rows, and then you switch into your main colour, and then you work this colour work, which is really satisfying at the top. You do your heel flap and gusset, you do a little bit of length if you need it, and then you start your colour work again, and you do your toe. And they're just, look at that colour work. They're gorgeous. They're absolutely stunning. I have had so much positive feedback on these from the test knit group, from you guys commenting, and I 100% agree with that. They are absolutely stunning, these socks. They look equally good in a few of the testers, and Hannah herself had used solid colour in the background. I've used a colour changing yarn, which we'll talk about a bit more in a minute. But they look equally good in a solid colour. They are just gorgeous and really, really fun to knit, because this colour work is super addictive. It's, I think at the most, these little hexagons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, hexagons, they've got 6 sides. They are, I think, there's 7 stitches across, so you don't need to catch any floats. This would be, if it's your first time doing small circumference colour work, this would be great. This would be absolutely fine. I knit the largest size in the pattern, which is 78 stitches, because when I measured my foot, which is very similar size to my husband's foot, which is who these are for in terms of width, I needed the biggest size. And actually, I'm really glad I did, because I tried these on and the colour work is a little bit tight in places. So they fit nicely, but if I'd gone for the smaller one, I don't think they would have done. So this is 78 stitches on 2.5mm needles. I used a 9-inch short circular for most of it, and then a 2.5mm long needle for the heel flap and gusset and the toe. And I find that makes me much quicker. I used to get to the heel flap and really slow down, because knitting a heel flap on 2.5mm 9-inch circulars is quite faffy. I can do it, but it's not easy. And I found that used to be a massive stalling point for me. I'd get there and go, I don't want to do this, and they'd get put to one side and I'd never pick them up again quite often. So that really does help, and that's the second sock I finished in the last month, because I've done it through that, and because I've done it with the test knit, which really does help me having a deadline. It really, really does. I thrive on a deadline. So for yarn, I use the contrast is Drops Fable in the shade, I think it's just off-white, and then the main colour is Shoppel Zauberball, Crazy Zauberball. I got the name completely wrong last time. It's not Schokoladen Trinken, which is, I don't know if that even makes sense in German. Somebody will probably tell me. But it's Schokoladenseite, which my other half tells me because he speaks German. He thinks it is like gifts of chocolate or little chocolate gifts, something like that. It was sort of that kind of thing. But it's this beautiful, you know, it goes into reds, you've got some oranges, you've got some beiges and some greys and some mild bits, and then it goes back into this orange again. I haven't cast on the second sock yet. I need to because I want to give him these as a Christmas present, but I'm super happy with these. And this yarn, Drops Fable, I love anyway. I've knit a couple of pairs of socks in that, so I knew I was going to like that. But the Zauberball is absolutely stunning, and I really, really want to buy some more of these. I'm going to put myself on a yarn ban next year. More details coming about that when we talk about my plans for 2025. But I am going to put myself on a yarn ban next year. I need to. I really need to. But I might pick up another one of these in a different shade beforehand, just so I can do some more socks like this, because these are gorgeous and the yarn is so soft. I hope it wears well. I really hope it wears well, because oh, just stunning. I said last time I want to use these as the thumbnail, but I don't want to because he'll see them. He doesn't, my other half I don't think watches my videos anymore. He did when I initially started to support me. It would be a bit weird if he watched, to be fair, because it's not his hobby at all. But he does see the thumbnails and he would see that. Oh God, it looks so good, doesn't it? It looks so festive as well, which I really love. And one thing I really like about how Hannah's done these is your beginning of round is at the back and the bottom of your foot. So you haven't got a jog on either side. You can see perfectly crisp colour work and perfectly crisp colour work. So on the bits that you actually see and on the front, it's completely crisp and clean and lovely. So yeah, very, very highly recommend these. She also has another pattern, I mentioned it last time, that came out called the Cozy Season Socks, which I'm absolutely going to knit. They are a colour work, but they're a bit more of a simple colour work. Again, you've got a bit at the top and a bit at the bottom, I think, but they're more simple than this. But they look stunning, and these are going to be coming out, I think, next week. So very, very highly recommend you go pick them up. Hi guys, it is much later and the lighting is terrible, but before I posted this I've jumped back in after the fact because I've got some exciting news that we're going to be running a giveaway for the Vinter socks. So the socks have actually now been released for starters, so if you wanted to go and get yourself some, the Vinter socks are now available on Ravelry, and I've popped down in the comments in the description box the link to where you can get them from Herbgarden Knitwear. But Hannah of Herbgarden Knitwear has really generously offered to give me a coupon code for a free copy of the pattern for one of you to win, and I'm so excited to be able to share this with you because this is honestly a really, really fun sock pattern. So if you want to be in with a chance of winning, you need to make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, drop this video a like, and down in the comments leave me a comment. It can be anything, but make sure you include the word Vinter. I'll pop that on screen, but it's Vinter. If you put the word Vinter in there, I will know that you want to win them. I will filter by them. This is open to anyone, anywhere. Hannah has really kindly provided a coupon code, so you can, as long as you can access Ravelry, you can get that through there. I am sure if Ravelry is not accessible for you, let me know, and I am sure that we will be able to sort a way to get that pattern to you. But yeah, leave me a comment down below. The giveaway will be open until I film the next episode, which will most likely be on Friday next week, which will be whatever this date is that I've put on screen, because I can't work out off the top of my head what it actually is going to be. When that runs out, I will do a random comment generator. I will pick somebody from there and I will announce that in the next episode, and I'll ask you to get in touch that way. I won't comment on anything down below saying that you've won. So if anything like that happens, if anybody asks you for personal details, if anybody asks you for money, anything like that, that's not me. I'll announce the video in next week's podcast, and I will tell you what you need to do to get in touch with me to arrange to get the pattern. So yeah, say like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with the word Vinter to be in for a chance of winning, and we'll get that to you. So that's my half finished object. But yeah, super fun. I think it took me about a week and a bit to knit these, but I did the majority of that in 2 days, and then it took me a little bit longer to do the last of it. What I might do is when I do the second one, time myself how long it takes and really focus on this and see how long it takes. But very, very fun, very satisfying. Want to make them in every colour under the sun. Really highly recommend the pattern. As with all of Hannah's patterns as well, I think it's got 5 sizes in it, which for a sock is quite unusual. Extremely well written, really clear, very easy to follow, and Hannah is fantastic for support if you need anything from her. Basically, if you struggle with any of her patterns, she will absolutely be there for pattern support. So yeah, really highly recommend these. So that's been the only half finished objects. I was going to say it's taken up most of my time, but it really hasn't, because it took about 10 minutes to finish the toe off, and then I washed it and blocked it, and that's it. The thing that I focus most of my time on is my Amelia Cardigan, which is a sample knit for woolly knit. So let me show you what I've got. Oh God, lots of ends, lots of dangly bits, and some live stitches as well. So we have, this is a bottom up raglan cardigan, knit in pieces and seamed at the end. I am knitting this in their Aran cones, 400 gram Aran cones, which is 100% British wool. I really rate Woolly Knits cones. I said that last time. Their 4-ply and their Aran weight are beautiful. And I made a mistake on the needle sizes last time, so I am knitting this on 4mm needles, on 5mm needles for the body, but I think I said the ribbon is 4.5 and actually it's 4mm needles, so just a correction there. So we've already finished the back panel, which I quite like to show because it gives you a really good indication of the cables and things like that, and the bobbles. That's been done for a couple of weeks. We had last week finished the first front, which looked very strange because they're all curly. And I've now finished the second front. I think when we spoke last time on Monday, I was just above the pocket. I think I was about here. So I finished all of that. I just sat and focused on that for a couple of days. And yeah, we now have 2 finished fronts. So we have a back and 2 fronts. These look so strange. I will say on the first front, I have gone back in and put in the ribbing on the pocket, which I haven't done yet on the second front. That's just some stitches on hold. So that still needs doing, but I can do that at the end. And then I've started working on the last bit I need to work on, which is my sleeves. Now I've decided to work on these 2 at a time. So there's lots of ends on these, annoyingly. But this is where we are at with the sleeves. So these are progressing quite nicely. This is where I was. That was the start of yesterday, basically. So this is the amount of work I got done yesterday on them, and obviously that's on both of them. But the sleeves are knit exactly the same. The fronts, obviously the shaping is a bit different, but the sleeves are knit exactly the same. So I thought 2 at a time, and that's what we're doing. I've never really knit anything 2 at a time before. I'm really enjoying it. So maybe that will be something that I do more often. But this has been the thing that's taken most of my knitting time. I'm a bit bored of it because, like I said, you're doing the same cables. This is the same cable that's on every single pattern. These cables are on every single piece, sorry, not pattern. I would really like to have this done by next time we speak. So at the end, I'll set some targets for the end of the week. And I think I did say I wanted to get that front finished and to have made a start on the sleeve. And at that time, I hadn't decided I was going to do them 2 at a time. So actually, this is quite a lot of progress. So I'm pleased with that. I would really love to have this done by next week and be able to just show you a picture because it's gone off to Woolly Knit. So that is my aim for next week. Let's talk briefly about the project that's going to be ripped out. So I have started knitting something that's going to be a test knit for a friend. So to preface this, the proper test call hasn't gone out for this yet, but I can very, very, very highly recommend her podcast. She has, after much pestering from me, finally gone and done herself a podcast. So go and check out the Ruby. Oh, I've lost a stitch. It's a good job it's getting ripped out, isn't it? Go and check out the Ruby and Purls podcast on YouTube. Lovely, lovely Lea, who I'm very, very lucky to call a friend, has put out a podcast. Lea, you may know her as Lea Ambar Knits on Ravelry and Instagram. She's quite active on both of those. She is a aspiring knitwear designer in her words. I would say she is a knitwear designer because she has designs available on Ravelry. And she has some absolutely fantastic ideas. She is very similar to me in that we both love test knitting. So when she said that this cardigan was going to be going for test, I was like, me, please, can I, I want to. And she said, you don't have to, just because you're my friend, you don't have to. No, but I want to, please let me. So the test hasn't officially started for this yet. She hasn't properly done the test call, but I was essentially given very kind first refusal, and I did not refuse. I said, yes, I want to knit this. So there will be a proper test knit call coming for this. I think in, what did she call it? Crimbo Limbo week was what she called it, in the week between Christmas and New Year. I am test knitting that. And yeah, I can very highly recommend Lea and this design. So far, it's bang on. It's a complex pattern and not a single bit of it has been hard to follow. So very highly recommend you keep an eye out for this. This is the Pearly Cardigan, which I will pop a picture up here for you, and is stunning, absolutely stunning. So this is a top-down saddle shoulder cardigan, mostly stockinette with corrugated rib details and I-cord details. And the way she's done the I-cords, that they go around and they go she's so clever in how she's done it. I look at stuff like that and go, I have no idea how you've done that. But yeah, it's a completely size inclusive pattern. She's very big on size inclusivity, and the thing that I love, and I think one of the things we probably bonded over the most first, is that she's super keen to encourage using budget friendly yarns. She wants to be known as the designer that makes things for £20 and under, and I adore that so much. And that's partly why this is getting ripped out. So this is where I got to. Prepare yourself. This is gorgeous. The colour as well is very bright. Oh, look at that pink. Oh my god. It's so good. So this would be, if I was continuing with it, this would be my right shoulder. Look. Oh my god. I can't get over how good it looks. So I put a poll up on Instagram for which colour should I go for, and this actually wasn't the winner. This was the second place. There was a purple that was the winner, which was very close, but I just couldn't. This is so fun that this is the one that won. So this is going to be ripped out, and I'm going to start again, and there's a reason for that, which we'll explain. I have used, let's talk about the bright yarn first. I have used, this is a completely new to me yarn, and this is really budget friendly. This isn't going to show up at all, this label. Let me just try and, it's holographic. This is Signet Sugar Spun. So this is, I think, fairly new. I've certainly never come across it before. This is a 80% acrylic, 20% wool yarn. 100 grams gives you 300 meters, so it's a light DK. They call it a DK, but I'd say it's a fairly light DK. Although, I don't know if you can see, it's got this wonderful halo, and it has knit up really nicely as a DK alongside a DK weight yarn. Obviously this is an I-cord, so it looks a little bit different, but it has knit up really, really nicely. This is the shade Orange Fuzz, I was right, which is just stunning. I'll pop up a picture to show the other colours that I got, because I wasn't really sure what colour I wanted. And you can never be sure, particularly with really bright things like this, what they're going to look like when they arrive. So I ordered 4 colours because this was super inexpensive as well. I feel like it was, I think it was like £2 something a ball. So it's really inexpensive. And it sort of reminded me on the screen, and Lea said the same thing, it's like Stylecraft Grace. It's way nicer than Stylecraft Grace. I've really enjoyed working with this so far. So I got the 4 colours. There is a pink, a green, orange and a purple. The purple is gorgeous. It's got a real depth to it. It's almost like a tonal that you get from a hand dyer. The pink was a little bit disappointing. It wasn't as neon as I thought it was going to be. I think it's called bubblegum. It is a bubblegum pink, but I thought, looking at how neon this and the green were, that would be a neon as well, and it's not. So that was a little bit disappointing. The green is poorly named, I think. It's called Whisper. And that thing is not a whisper. That is a shout. That is a slap in the face. That is not a whisper. It is like ectoplasm green. It's gorgeous, but it's for a specific use. I don't really know what that use is. A hat would look really good in it. But I wasn't so keen on having it as the detail. For me, I would prefer like a neon fluorescent lime green rather than that almost sort of blue tone, cool toned green that they've got going on. But the purple and the orange were the 2 closest. And I just couldn't stop thinking about how fun this would be. So I went with it, and I'm super happy with that. The reason I'm going to rip it out is Lea has knit her sample in King Cole Recycle Forest Aran, which I have some of, and I did think about knitting it in that, but I really wanted to do it in sort of fun colours and have this really bright contrast. Hi guys, Editing Emily popping in. I just wanted to explain why I'm talking about a DK weight cardigan pattern, and I've just talked about an Aran weight yarn that she's used for a sample. The sample and the cardigan is DK weight and it's knitted to DK gauge. The King Cole Recycle Forest Aran is called Aran, but it's really not an Aran weight. I have tried to knit it to an Aran weight pattern and it's just too thin. Lea said exactly the same. It is a DK weight yarn. Even the yardage is DK weight. I don't know why they call it Aran. It's not. It's DK weight. So please don't be confused by that. It is a DK weight pattern. And yeah, if you wanted to test knit this, the test knit call will be coming fairly soon. Go follow Lea on Instagram, follow her on YouTube, come and test knit it with me and her. And yeah, it's going to be super fun. And she'd said that she's knitting herself a second sample. And one of the reasons is that the yarn that she's used, that recycled forest iron, has quite a lot of drape to it. And she feels, and I sort of agree, this is a very structural cardigan with these I-cord details and things. It's very structural. You don't want something that drapey. And I also wanted to kind of go along with the ethos of budget friendly. This is not an you know me well enough to know this isn't going to be expensive, but I could do it cheaper. And she also is really keen on things that you can whack in the machine, which again is nice. So what I had used, this cream, is Drops Lima, which is their DK weight wool and alpaca blend, and I think it's 65% wool, 35% alpaca. It's extremely drapey. It's going to be even more drapey when I block it because of the alpaca in there. It is lovely, and it is soft, and it is gorgeous, and it's not super expensive. It's Drops. It's not super expensive, but I could definitely do it more budget friendly, and I was more concerned than anything about the drape, about having the same problem as she'd said she'd had. And this isn't going to have much drape. This is wool and acrylic and a little bit of wool. So I'm going to rip this out and I'm going to start again. And I got some acrylic from Herbie. I decided to order from Herbie for the first time ever on their Black Friday sale. And I got some of their HB acrylic, I think it's called, which I think is like high bulk or something like that. It was really cheap. It was like £1 something a ball. It feels really nice. It doesn't feel squeaky at all. So that should be quite nice to knit with. Hopefully that'll be when the sort of proof of the pudding comes. But it's a very similar colour to this. So I'm going to get a very similar contrast. But it shouldn't have the drape. And it should really fit with Lea's sort of designy, sort of budget friendly, washing machine friendly, all that sort of stuff. So this will be being ripped out, but I will be knitting it again in these exact colours, just a different main yarn. And yeah, you will probably see this coming in the not too distant future, because oh look, part of me really wants another one with the purple, because the purple is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, you will see more of this, the Pearly Cardigan. Okay, so then we shall talk about some Advent projects. So there is a disclaimer here. I'm going to show the Work Knits Advent, the Corner of Craft Advent, and the Blue Fern Yarns Advent. However, all of which I'm only going to show it to day 3. Yeah, day 3. So I'm filming this on the 6th of December. You should be good, but I just wanted to mention that if for any reason you've been away, you haven't been able to open your Advents and you don't want spoilers, I will start by talking about the Work Knits, then the Corner of Craft, then the Blue Fern Yarns. If I remember, I will add timestamps below. So if you want to skip any of those, please do. So, I have made a conscious decision not to keep up with my Advent projects this year. I did start them all, not all. I started 3 of them. The Blue Fern Yarns I only started yesterday because it took me a long time to settle on what I wanted to make with those, because I got a 10 gram one for that. And I was really struggling to find something that I liked, that I wanted to make, and that I thought I would use, because I don't want to just make something for the sake of making something. But I did find a pattern in the end. And yeah, so it's been a couple of iterations before I've turned it into that. But the other 2 I'd settled on fairly quickly, I think before Advent started. And I did start on the 1st of December, and I did try and keep up. And then, like I say, a little bit unwell for a couple of days. And also really want to get that Amelia done. I can't stress enough how much that's almost hanging over me. Sounds really negative. It's not that. I just want to get it done. I'm bored of it, and I want to get it sent back to Wool in it. It's lovely, but I've had enough of it now. And I've got loads of other things that I want to do that are exciting, that I want to work on. So yeah, that's what I've really been putting time into. And I did it for a few days. I kept up with these for a few days, and then I thought, you know what? It's taking more time than I thought. I just want to get the Amelia out of the way. And what I might try and do is catch up at the weekend, because I get a lot more knitting time at the weekends. I might try and catch up on them at the weekend, because I don't want it to also get too far behind. That I end up feeling overwhelmed at the thought of trying to catch up. So yeah, that's where we're at. That's why I've made the conscious decision to not. But let me show you. So the first one is the Work Knits Advent. Like I said, I'm going to show it. Spoilers, if you don't want to see it, look away. I messed up slightly with this. I realised, so I've got the 12-day advent from Work Knits, which is a 12 20-gram mini advent. I realised when I came to open my third one yesterday that what I've actually got here is day 1 and day 3, and I've now opened day 2. So that was partly what stalled me on this, because what I decided I was going to do is wait until I've opened the 4th one and decide if I want to rip back and put them in the right order, because these aren't a fade, but I do think she's got a bit of a colour story going. And with this one, I'm making the Polesden wrap by Amy Lowden, who is Taylor S Studio, who is the person who does the Whitmore cardigan, is probably what you know her better for. This is a really beautiful lacy scarf. It is intended for minis. However, I will say it says it's intended for 20-gram minis. I've made a couple of adjustments to it. First off, it recommends that you use minis plus a sori in between, and you do a big batch of the sori. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to knit with these. And also, if you can see where I'm holding my finger, this row here is where I should have finished and started my next repeat. Obviously, I've chosen not to do that. That's actually about halfway through my mini. So I decided to continue until I ran out of yarn, essentially, and then change to my next one. But it's really satisfying to knit. It's a really simple, easily memorizable lace pattern. It's going to block out beautifully. You're knitting fingering weight yarn on, I think it's 4mm needles, 3.5mm needles. I think it recommended 3.25 or 3, but I went up to 3.5. And it's really beautiful. And I'll pop some pictures on screen, because it's going to make the most beautiful drapey, stripy scarf. And every time you change colour, you do another one of these garter ridges sections before you go into the lace. So it sort of delineates a little bit. Very happy with this. The yarn is stunning. If you've not tried Work Knits yarn, I cannot highly enough recommend her natural 4-ply base or the natural DK. It is 100% Highland wool. She does have a sock base as well, which I haven't tried. But the natural base is so soft and so plump and so squishy, and it's perfect for a scarf. I'm so excited. So yeah, this is the first one, which was Tail Lights. This is the third one, which is Fall. And there should have been Brooklyn Brownstone in the middle, which I've now opened, and it's really beautiful. But yeah, I'd like to not rip back if I can avoid it, because this is actually about 9-10 rows of knitting. So if I can avoid ripping that back, that would be great. But if it doesn't look good with the next one, if it's going to look a bit off, then I will rip back and I'll put the right one in the right place. But yeah, this is where we're at with that. So that's the Polesden wrap by Amy Lowden. Then next we have, okay, spoilers now for Corner of Craft Advent. So the Corner of Craft Advent so far has been my favourite. It's stunning. It's stunning. So the Corner of Craft Advent is inspired by Muppets Christmas Carol, which is my favourite Christmas film. My other half laughs like mad, because when we met, I'd never seen it. And when I tell you, I shat on this thing, excuse my language, I really did. It's stupid. Why would you want to watch a film with the Muppets in? I don't even like the Christmas Carol. A Christmas Carol. Why would you want to watch that? And he insisted. And eventually we watched it about 3 years ago. I'm obsessed with it. It's such a good film. What I always say is I don't like the Muppets, really, and I don't like A Christmas Carol. I don't enjoy the story of it very much. So why would I like those two things combined? But I did. And it's my favourite Christmas film, easily. So when she did a Muppets Christmas Carol themed one, I absolutely had to go for it. So what am I knitting with it? I've completely lost my train of thought there. I'm knitting the Resplendence shawl by Stephen West. So this is not an advent pattern. This is just a beautiful shawl pattern. And he gives you the yardages, and according to the yardages, I should need to knit 3 strips with each colour. Rather than knitting them 3 concurrently, I am knitting day 1, day 2, day 3, blah, 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 blah. And then I will go back to day 1 after day 24, because you need 64 strips in total. So I'll do 2 full repeats and then 1 part repeat. I have made a couple of slight alterations to it. And I will say, I think I'm unusual in this. Although I know the wonderful person that I've done my advent swap with, Audrey, has said she's exactly the same. I think Stephen West patterns are stunning. he does very different things that nobody else really does. I really, really appreciate that. I really don't like his writing style. I really struggle with his writing style. So I find his patterns quite hard to follow. I have knit, this is now my third, and I would like to do a Go-Go Dynamo as well, because again, nobody does things like him. So of course I'd like to knit his patterns, but yeah, they are a challenge. So this has been no different. This has been a challenge for me. But yeah, spoilers coming up now, because I'm going to show this is day 1, 2 and 3 of the Corner of Craft Advent. And this is quite hard to show because of how it works. Let's show the wide bit. So this is beautiful. This is going to essentially be like this. This is the top of your shawl. This is the bottom of your shawl. You use short rows, so it's thinner rows at the top and wider at the bottom, and it creates this big, long, wedge-shaped shawl. So we have day 1 at the bottom. First off, alterations. You're supposed to do this in your first colour. I want to maximise what I can get out of these. I don't want to use them up for any other things, so I did this in my contrast, which is again Drops Fable in off-white. It's the same as I used in my Vinter socks. And it's also supposed to be these little bits in the middle are supposed to be a mohair. But again, I don't have mohair in my stash that I want to use. I wanted to use a cream because I thought it would contrast nicely with it. And again, it's Drops Fable. It works absolutely fine. I am also knitting it on slightly larger needles. It's supposed to be bent there. Yeah. It's recommended for 3.75. I've got it on 4mm needles just because they were what I had to hand, and I'm really happy with how it's turning out. So we have at the bottom, the first colour was I'm Here to Tell a Story. The second one is And I'm Here for the Food. Third one is Mr. Humbug, which is stunning. Look at that. I mean, they all are. They're absolutely stunning. I have 3 more to add because we're on day 6. I've opened the next 3. So the next one was Even the Vegetables Don't Like Him. The one after that was No Cheeses for His Mises, which of course is the best line from the entire film. And then the 6th one is Heatwave, This Is My Island in the Sun, which is completely different than all the other colours, as you can imagine. So yeah, really excited to see how this is going to turn out. And like I say, I'm going to complete all of the 24 colours. Come on. I'm going to complete all the 24 colours, and then I'm going to start back again at day 1 and repeat again. One thing I think I am going to do is take them off these needles because I'm not super happy with these. These are some old stash. They're pony fixed needles. And I don't know if you can see there. Yeah, you can. They're quite dull at the end, if I can. Yeah, they're quite dull. They've not got a very sharp tip. And for most of it, it's fine because most of it is garter with some short rows in. But for this row where you do these, this is all knit 2 togethers and yarn overs. And that is quite hard with dull needles. They also, am I going to be able to do this? They've not got the right sound to them. They don't have the nice, they've got like a, don't like that. Don't know why I don't like that, but I don't like that. It's not a smooth metallic sliding sound. It's like brushed metal almost. They don't feel like that, but they sound like that. So I'm not super happy with them. I think I'm gonna get it off these and onto some other 4mm needles as well at the weekend when I catch up. And I also need to weave my ends in. A lot of the projects on Ravelry suggest doing this as you go along, or doing a few strips and then weaving your ends in, because otherwise you're gonna have a lot at the end. We all know how I feel about ends. So if I don't do it while I go, I'm not going to do it. But yeah, this is my second Advent project with Corner Craft. Okay, so the last one to talk about is, like I say, my Blue Fern Yarns Advent. I've actually popped this one in a bag, and I was going to show it because this is, on the last podcast I talked about the bags from Primark, and I had it in the blue one with the Christmas scene. This was the pink one that came with it. So it says Joy, you've got some little gingerbread men and stuff like that. And I've just put it in here to keep it together because, like I said, I hadn't decided what I was going to do with these for a bit. I'd started making some granny squares with them, wasn't very happy with that. I started making some hexies, also wasn't very happy with that. Didn't have enough to do a Yorkshire blanket, the 10 gram minis. So they're not big enough for that. And just wasn't feeling it. And then I started doing a corner to corner like shell stitch blanket that was lovely, but just still wasn't fully feeling it. And then finally settled on a pattern because I found one on Ravelry that is intended for 10 gram minis. Let me just do this before I lose a stitch. I really I was hoping to do, and I am doing, a crochet project with it, because the other two are knitting, and I thought it would be nice to have a crochet project as well. Oh, I should mention actually on crochet projects, I have done some more work on my Be More Vivienne. Like I said, I'm not going to show that every week, but we are now 2 and a bit repeats through the horizontal lines on that, so hopefully in the not too distant future I'll be able to show you that when we get ready to put the vertical lines for the tartan on it. So again, spoilers of day 1, 2 and 3 of the Blue Fern Yarns Advent. Look away now if you don't want to see it, but this is where we're at with that. She's pulling her thing. So this is very imaginatively named. It is the Advent Scarf 2021 by, I think it's Dragon Hill Studios. It's paid for pattern on Ravelry, but it's not very expensive. It's only like £3.50. And this is designed for 10 gram minis, which I really like, because most stuff you find for Advent patterns is designed for 20 gram minis. And I didn't want to do that. I haven't got that to do. So this is a crochet scarf, essentially. Obviously, this will block out quite nicely. You can tell it's quite lacy. There's a lot of sort of holes, and it's crocheted at quite a loose gauge anyway. So it will block out really nicely. It'll block out this way, but actually it's going to block really nicely this way too, and turn into like a really sort of lacy scarf. And I think it's beautiful. And I think it works really well with the Blue Fern Yarns Advent, because that is a fade. So this was the Apothecary Advent. So we've got day 1 down the bottom. It's basically 2 of these stripes per colour. 2 of these. I don't know if you can see, there's these sort of backly pony rows that create like a stripe. So we've got day 1, day 2, and then I'm partway into day 3. This doesn't take me long at all to do. I started doing this, I think probably about 9 o'clock last night, and by the time I went to bed at about 10:30, I'd done most of day 2, finished off day 2 today, and then popped day 3 on the top like that. And I've got a little bit more to do, but it's not taking me long at all. It's extremely drapey because it's so loose gauge. And I know from experience that Shannon's yarns block out beautifully, so this will block out really nicely. This is one that I might keep up with because it doesn't take me long to add in crochet rows, and I like crochet. I've said so many times before, I like crochet as a bit of a break from knitting. It's a different movement. I hold the yarn differently. I'm an English style knitter, so I hold the yarn in my right hand when I knit, but crochet I hold in the left hand. So it's a completely different setup for my muscles, for my body, everything. So it's a nice break, and it also seems to like light up different bits of my brain. So I like that, definitely. The next few days move into purples a lot more and sort of get deeper. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to keep going. I'd like to try and get 2 days put on today, and then 2 days put on tomorrow. And then I'll need to do 1 more day of 2 days, and then I'll be back to adding 1 a day. So if I do 3 and 4 today, 5 and 6 tomorrow, and then on day 8, do 7 and 8. the cogs, can you hear the cogs whirring? Because I can. Then I'll be caught up. So yeah, that's where we are at with that. And that's everything I've got to talk to you about. I am trying... I say I'm trying to focus. I've got projects all around me. I am trying to be a bit more focused at the moment and just pick, okay, this is your main project. This is what you put most of your knitting time into. And what I want to do is really put that time into the Amelia. Then once I finish that, sit down and work on the West Sands Pullover. I've not done a single bit on that this week. But once I finish the Amelia, get that sent back off to Woolly Knit and sit and crack through that West Sands. And then I'm hoping that, so we go away for Christmas. I'm still going to be doing some filming and stuff. I'm going to be taking you with me. But we're going away to spend Christmas away. My parents, I think I've said already on here, my parents are out of the country. And we will see my husband's parents, my parents, my in-laws now. God, that feels incredibly grown up. We'll see them before we go away. But we're taking ourselves off to a very remote little cottage in Scotland, which sounds absolutely wonderful. And we're going on the 21st, so I would really like to have the Amelia and the West Sands done by then and be able to just take sort of selfish projects. They're not selfish projects because they are test knits and things, but they're the things that now I want to work on, so they are selfish for me because now I'm excited and I want to move towards those. I said it was going to be a quick one, but we're still at 45 minutes. So yeah, I fully went into it thinking, I've not got a lot to talk about today. Surrounded by projects by my feet. What I'd like to have done by next time, I said we'd set goals, didn't I? I would like to have cast on that second Vinter sock. And could I maybe get through I'd like to have cast on my second Vinter sock and got through the colour work on the leg. I think that's doable in a week, because it will be a week this time. I'll be filming again on Friday next week. I would like to have... I'd love to have finished the Amelia. The pause then was me trying to work out if that's feasible. I need to finish the sleeves. I need to put everything together and block everything, and then I need to add button bands. Maybe that's not doable, but that's my stretch target, because I would so love to have that done and back. I don't need to add buttons to it, which is good, because I'm not very good at buttons. I don't really like putting buttons on things. They basically just said, put the buttonholes in. We will add buttons when it comes back to us, which is great. So yeah, that's my main thing. I'd like to have that done and this cast onto about here. They're my two main things. I'd like to be somewhat kept up with my advents. I don't want to be up to date. Like I said, I'm not particularly bothered about that, but I also don't want them to get so far behind that I lose interest in them and it feels too daunting to pick them back up again. So yeah, that's where I'd like to be. Colour work finished on this. Amelia Cardigan finished. Let's see if I can do that. And yeah, next week will be... I can't believe how quick December is going. It's the 6th when I'm filming this. It feels like 2 minutes ago we were putting that up. But it's 2 weeks tomorrow till we go away. And that essentially is then Christmas. We go on the 21st. So you've got a couple of days of work. And then it's Christmas. It's mad. It's gone so quick. Anyway, before I get on a tangent of how time flies and how I'm getting old and all that sort of stuff, I will leave you there. Thank you very much for watching, guys. It's been really lovely to be here and be sharing things with you again. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.